In the heart of Provence, France, a legend was born. Michel de Nostradamus, known to history as Nostradamus, emerged into a world ripe with change and uncertainty. From his earliest years, Nostradamus exhibited a thirst for knowledge that belied his age, immersing himself in studies of history, astrology, and healing. The 16th century was an epoch of profound transformation, a turbulent tapestry woven with threads of religious upheaval, political intrigue, and intellectual ferment. Amidst this maelstrom of change, Nostradamus came of age, his formative years shaped by the tumult and uncertainty that surrounded him. His sensitive nature, attuned to the undercurrents of his time, perceived the fragility of peace and the ever-present potential for both greatness and destruction. Europe in the 16th century was a continent teetering on the precipice. The great powers of the day, France, Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire, were locked in a deadly struggle for dominance. The echoes of war reverberated far beyond the battlefields, casting a long shadow over Nostradamus's world. It was within this crucible of human suffering, where hope and despair intertwined, that Nostradamus's prophetic voice would find its power. Yet amidst the turmoil, a new spirit was also taking root. The Renaissance, a vibrant cultural and intellectual movement, was sweeping north, bringing with it a renewed appreciation for classical learning, art, and human potential. Nostradamus embraced the humanist ideals of the Renaissance, immersing himself in the works of ancient scholars and philosophers. The printing press played a pivotal role in disseminating knowledge, and Nostradamus would later use this medium to share his own controversial visions with the world. It was during this time of great transformation that Nostradamus began to experience the visions and premonitions that would make him a legend. Some believe he possessed a genuine gift of foresight, a window into the hidden currents of time. In an era obsessed with astrology, alchemy, and the occult, his pronouncements were met with a mixture of fear, fascination, and skepticism. Nostradamus's journey into the realm of prophecy was a gradual unfolding, a slow awakening to a hidden world beyond ordinary perception. His early years were marked by an insatiable thirst for knowledge, leading him deep into ancient wisdom and esoteric traditions. It was during his travels as a young physician wandering plague-stricken towns that his prophetic abilities began to stir. Surrounded by death and suffering, he witnessed the fragility of human existence, awakening within him a profound empathy and a desperate yearning to make sense of the chaos. The nature of Nostradamus's prophecies was as enigmatic as the man himself. His predictions were cryptic verses, veiled in symbolism and allegory, requiring careful interpretation. Despite their obscurity, Nostradamus's prophecies quickly gained notoriety. His first collection, Les Prophéties, published in 1555, became an instant bestseller. People from all walks of life were captivated by his enigmatic verses, seeking clues to their destinies and the fate of nations. In an era of profound anxiety and uncertainty, his prophecies offered a glimmer of hope, a sense of an underlying order to the universe. Nostradamus's prophecies covered a vast expanse of time, from his own era to centuries into the future. He wrote about wars and revolutions, natural disasters and plagues, the rise and fall of empires, and the destinies of kings and queens. Some of his prophecies seem to foretell events that occurred during his lifetime or shortly thereafter, fueling his reputation as a true seer. Nostradamus lived in an era of intense religious fervor, a time when faith was both a shield and a sword. Born into a Jewish family that had converted to Catholicism, he navigated the treacherous currents of this religious maelstrom. His inquisitive mind and fascination with astrology and Kabbalah hinted at a more complex relationship with faith. Some scholars believe his prophecies reflect his inner struggle to reconcile his Catholic faith with his fascination with the occult. The weight of prophecy took a toll on Nostradamus. His writings are filled with a sense of foreboding, a premonition of impending calamities and upheavals. Yet amidst the darkness, he also perceived glimmers of hope, moments of grace and redemption. His prophecies, rather than providing a fixed roadmap to the future, serve as a mirror, reflecting our own hopes and fears, our capacity for both great good and terrible evil. Centuries after his death, Nostradamus continues to fascinate and intrigue. His prophecies have been the subject of countless books, documentaries, and films, and his name is synonymous with predicting the future. In a world grappling with climate change, political polarization, and the threat of global conflict, his warnings about the fragility of civilization and the importance of human choice resonate with renewed urgency. Nostradamus's prophecies, veiled in symbolism and riddled with cryptic verses, have captivated and confounded scholars for centuries. Like whispers from the abyss of time, they tantalize us with glimpses of a future forever cloaked in shadows. Some dismiss his writings as mere conjecture, open to endless interpretation. Yet, there are those who claim to find, within those enigmatic verses, chilling echoes of history's most pivotal events. One of the most cited examples is Nostradamus's supposed prediction of the Great Fire of London in 1666. Quatrain 251 speaks of a fire from the depths that will engulf a great city. While some argue that the language is too vague to be considered a direct prophecy, others point to the specific details, such as the mention of 66, as evidence of Nostradamus's uncanny foresight. The rise of Napoleon Bonaparte, a figure who would forever alter the course of European history, is another event that some believe was foretold by Nostradamus. Several quatrains allude to a powerful chieftain who will rise from humble beginnings to conquer nations and establish a vast empire. While Nostradamus's verses do not mention Napoleon by name, proponents argue that the descriptions of the leader's character and military exploits align remarkably well with the French emperor's life and conquests. The French Revolution, a seismic event that shattered the foundations of the old order and ushered in an era of unprecedented social and political upheaval, is also said to have been foreshadowed in Nostradamus's writings. Quatrain 989 speaks of a great terror that will grip a powerful nation, with commoners turned kings and blood spilled in the streets. While the language is certainly dramatic, the parallels to the French Revolution, with its reign of terror, the overthrow of the monarchy, and the bloodshed that ensued, are difficult to ignore. The interpretation of prophecy is a perilous endeavor, fraught with subjectivity and prone to confirmation bias. Nostradamus's cryptic verses tempt us to find patterns that confirm our notions of history and the future. The human mind seeks order in chaos, finding meaning in the seemingly random. Skeptics argue Nostradamus's prophecies are vague, fitting any event after the fact. His writings rely on symbolism and allegory, inherently ambiguous. Many fulfillments are the result of selective interpretation, cherry-picking verses. Despite skepticism, Nostradamus's allure endures, his writings continually studied and reinterpreted. Section 3. Through the Labyrinth of Time. Nostradamus, writing in the 16th century, could not have foreseen the specific technological advancements, political ideologies, or social transformations that would shape the world centuries later. His warnings about the destructive potential of human ambition, the corrupting influence of power, and the threat of environmental catastrophe strike a chord in a world grappling with climate change, political polarization, and the specter of nuclear war. Others interpret his writings more optimistically, seeing in them a message of hope and resilience. The choices we make today, as individuals and as a global community, will determine the course of history for generations to come. The Year of the Dragon's Breath. Nostradamus, the man who gazed across the chasm of centuries, left behind a legacy cloaked in enigma, a tapestry of verses woven with whispers of a future both terrifying and tantalizing. As we stand upon the precipice of 2024, the year of the dragon's breath, many turn to his ancient pronouncements, seeking guidance amidst a world teetering on the edge of chaos. The whispers speak of a year fraught with tribulation, a year where the elements themselves seem to rebel against the impertinence of man. Nostradamus cautioned of a time when the very earth would shudder beneath our feet, when the seas would rise up in fury and the skies weep tears of fire. His verses paint a chilling tableau of a world besieged by natural disasters of unprecedented scale and ferocity. Earthquakes, once localized tremors, would ripple across continents, leaving scars upon the very face of the planet. Floods, swollen by melting ice and torrential rains, would surge through cities and towns, washing away the works of man in a deluge of biblical proportions. And above it all, the heavens themselves would seem to burn, as drought parched the land, and wildfires, fueled by the fury of a changing climate, swept across continents, leaving behind a trail of ash and desolation. These are not mere meteorological events, Nostradamus warned, but rather the consequences of man's hubris, the price of our reckless disregard for the delicate balance of nature. 2024, the year of the dragon's breath, stands as a harbinger of things to come, a taste of the tempest that awaits us should we fail to heed the warnings whispered across the centuries. Whispers of unrest. Yet, the tremors that shake our world are not confined to the realm of nature. Nostradamus, with uncanny prescience, also spoke of a time when the very foundations of human society would tremble. His verses foretell a year of simmering tensions, of political turmoil and social unrest, where the bonds that hold nations and communities together begin to fray, threatening to unravel the fragile fabric of peace. He spoke of a great schism that would divide the world, not along geographical boundaries, but along ideological fault lines. Old alliances would crumble, replaced by suspicion and mistrust, as nations driven by self-interest and fueled by the fires of nationalism and populism retreated into their own echo chambers. The globalized world, once hailed as a triumph of human interconnectedness, would begin to fragment, with each faction retreating into its own fortified camp, armed with ideologies as potent and dangerous as any weapon of war. Nostradamus warned of demagogues who would rise to power by exploiting fear and division, their words like sparks igniting the tinder of discontent. He spoke of false prophets who would peddle simplistic solutions to complex problems, their charisma masking a lust for power and a disregard for the common good. 2024, the year of the dragon's breath, is a year when the battle for hearts and minds will be waged as fiercely as any battle on a physical battlefield. A year when the very soul of humanity will be tested in the crucible of conflict. The loom of destiny. Nostradamus, the man who claimed to see across the tapestry of time, left behind a legacy as perplexing as it is enduring. His prophecies, shrouded in symbolism and riddled with cryptic verses, continue to tantalize and terrify, offering a glimpse into a future that is at once both predetermined and malleable. If his visions hold true, if the year 2024 and the years beyond are destined to be shaped by the tumultuous forces he foresaw, then humanity stands at a crossroads of unprecedented consequence. Yet we must remember that Nostradamus, even in his most dire pronouncements, never spoke of an inevitable apocalypse. His prophecies, however ominous, were not intended as pronouncements of doom, but rather as warnings, as clarion calls to awaken us from our slumber of complacency. The future, he seemed to suggest, is not a fixed point on the horizon, but rather a shimmering mirage, ever shifting, ever evolving, shaped by the choices we make and the actions we take. The power to avert catastrophe, to navigate the treacherous currents of our time and steer humanity towards a brighter tomorrow, lies within each and every one of us. It lies in our willingness to embrace compassion over division, to choose cooperation over conflict, and to act with the understanding that we are all interconnected, our destinies intertwined on this fragile planet we call home. The loom of destiny is not fixed, but rather a living, breathing entity, its threads woven by the collective will of humankind. Let us then choose to weave a tapestry of hope, a future worthy of the generations yet to come.